Like I said, it does not matter. I'm the only person I think in this industry who's been called regressive and highly sexual content at the same time. I'm like, I clearly can't be put in a box. So I think it's all about the fact that I think we need to give people the lens of respect and kindness and think their stories are worth telling and the whole country hears. We've got to have our own morality in life and we have to stand up. And someone once said that well behaved women rarely make history.
Good evening, everyone. May I ask you to settle down and, of course, close the bar. I'm Shoma Chaudhury. I'm the founder of Lucid Lines, a company that's passionate about the power of conversation, ideas, thoughts, and the power of stories. And a huge, huge welcome to all of you here at Ignition. You know that a city is really special when an invitation to a series of conversations makes almost 500 people turn up on a weekday evening far away from the city. So congratulations to all of you, and thank you, Chennai, for being this special. Ignition, you know, as I shared with some of you last time, is an endeavor to really reinstate the power of conversation, to celebrate stories of courage, creativity, challenge, and to really put that centrality of thought in the middle of all societies. And I'm delighted to partner with SHIV NADAR Foundation, who are wonderful people to partner with because they're passionate, they're a technology company, but they're passionate about education, about habitat, about art, literature, and to repeat myself, the power of conversation. And that's not something that everybody backs, but SHIV NADAR is there to do it. So I'm really, really excited to partner with them. And of course, we have Kaveri Hospital, which again brings a very important component to healthcare, which is compassion and caring. We have Shiva's glassware that always reminds us that our glasses are more full than empty. So a big thank you to them. And to Page 3, which is an exclusive series of salons that groomed Ekta and me today. I don't know if I'm a good ambassador for them, but certainly they got what we wanted. They intuited what we wanted. So these are all our partners here, and a big thanks to them. I also wanted to thank Hemu Ramaya, who I call the Merlin of Madras, the Conjurer of Chennai. You know, so big applause to her. She's our co-host for the evening, and Hemu's wonderful because she's helped us connect with all of you. There's Brand Avatar, Hema Chandran's wonderful team, you know, Ravi and Preksha. They're fantastic people to partner with. And of course, ITC Grand Chola, that's been a very generous and wonderful host. So it's really great to have you all here. I just want to give a shout out to my partner and husband, Aditya, Kabir, Valmik, Dibyangi, all those in my team that helps us put all of this together. We're all your hosts here today. So thank you for being here. Now, I'm going to start with a session that I'm personally really excited by because it's centered on a person, a woman who absolutely signifies ignition because she started out at 17. And that's an age when most of us don't know what we want to eat, forget about what we want to do with our lives. But she started out at 17. She was already the toast of the nation at 25, a huge success. And from then, she is today at 47, a Padma Shri awardee. She's done 150 shows, more than 17,000 hours of entertainment in many languages, including Tamil and Hindi, of course. And she's recently had a show called Lock Up, which just one episode had 300 million viewers. So when I'm excited to have 500 people come to listen, you can imagine the power of pulling in 300 million people. And of course, she's known as the great Tsarina of content. But what really makes Ekta special for me is that she completely defies stereotypes. She's been labeled as the great regressive, And I'm sure she'll have a rationale for the kind of content that she does and why that should not be labeled a particular way. But at the other end of the spectrum, she's a progressive. And with altbalaji, she backs some of the most courageous and differential cinema that Hindi cinema at least has put out. So that's the great alchemy of Ekta Kapoor. And in a man's world, she's the empress of entertainment. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ekta Kapoor.
Hi, Shoma.
Thank you for being here, Ekta.
It's absolutely my pleasure. I always tell you that I'm also a mutual admirer, and I'm so happy to be talking to you on the stage.
Thank you. You know, Ekta is not entirely well, and I was told that your child wasn't well, but that was wrong information, so I'm glad that that's wrong information. But so we're doing her first, but I just want to say that there's a very exciting lineup afterwards as well, so it'll be fantastic to have all of you here right till the end. But let me start, Ekta, with, like I said, I just reeled out, not even a thumbnail, like a fingernail sketch of the kind of work that you've done. And it's fascinating that you started at 17. Since we're called Ignition, can you tell us that, that initial trigger, like what was that first story that made you feel you wanted to do this and you wanted to tell stories?
So it all started with my dad was very clear that, you have to do something with your life. And I was just about 16, heavily into partying and going out with friends. And I was like, I was really not into education. So he's like, find your calling. 16, you're like, what do you mean find your calling? I mean, everyone else is pretty much living a happy-go-lucky, insulated, if not entitled life. And here there was my dad who came with his extremely strong belief. My mom also felt I should do something in life. And every time they saw me in the house, they had a problem. So they would like catch me. I think all kids go through this at an age. What are you doing at home? You should be studying or doing something. I was like, oh my God. So I started working in an ad agency. And somehow I was like, okay, I like this world. There's something here. I definitely never saw myself in front of the screen. I definitely knew that storytelling, even if it was short format, was my thing. And then my dad had this offer from some friends to make some content for their channel abroad. And I just made it because I said, I'll do it for you. And he said, okay, do that. We have this buyer. He's my friend. He wants to buy content for his channel in London. It was an international channel. And the gentleman joined us as a partner. Somehow he happened to sell that channel. And the next thing you know is that I have my content and no one to buy it. And it was really boring content. No one liked it. And then I realized that I have probably put my dad into a mess because the money was all over and he wasn't doing that well. And suddenly we were financially strained because he believed I could do it. From there, I made a show called Hum Punch and I went to see. And from there, it changed my life and I found my calling. So I think it was a series of events.
Right. So, this intuiting this landscape, the psyche of what, you've said, it's like B-towns, Middle India, a kind of audience that was not being really catered to on television. You intuited that and you've become famous for, the kind of labels that come at you, the K series, the Kyunki Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahu Thi. That's, of course, your calling card in the universe. But so a lot of people are kind of critical of that kind of content. What gives you joy? You've said you're very proud of that content. So help us understand how you entered that universe and became so fantastically successful at it.
Actually, I think it was all about the simple fact that I realized that there are lots of stories for men in the theaters, but homes belong primarily to women who hold the remote control, and there were no stories about women. And I think we're very condescending to women who are homemakers, you know. Their problems, their lifestyles, their handling a home, which is clearly a tough job, was pretty much not even regarded as a job or not even taken into consideration. A Chicago research actually said that women after these shows actually started taking interest or partaking in family decisions, which never happened before. I'm really quite happy I got a chance to do so many stories where, okay, the vamp was a woman, but so was the heroine. And the men were almost like the,
Furniture in the background.
yeah, like they treated women on films. We treated the men on television, and it was stories about women. And like I said, it does not matter. I'm the only person I think in this industry who's been called regressive and highly sexual content at the same time. I'm like, I clearly can't be put in a box. So I think it's all about the fact that I think we need to give people the lens of respect and kindness and think their stories are worth telling and the whole country hears.
Yes. You know, the fact that you have the level of viewership you have, you clearly touch a chord, Ekta. But what I find really fascinating is that your own individual self, you know, you've once said that when we are viewers, we wear three hats. There's the hat you wear with your colleagues, there's the hat you wear with your family, and then there's the solo hat. And you in your solo hat clearly have a completely different taste. You have a different worldview, you live very individual life, you don't follow stereotypes. So, when you were making shows for this sort of audience of women, homemakers, mother-in-law, daughter-in-law dynamics, everyone sort of trying to stab each other, what is the psyche that you understood, and what has it told you about India and the 20, 30 25 years you've been making films, television? Has it changed? Has that psyche changed?
The psyche has become, see, every year when we do television, we fight some conditioning. But there is a lot of conditioning which is relatable and a part of our Indian psyche. So, how do you push the envelope? You don't create unrelatable, unidentifiable content and say, now you must watch it and get preachy. You make characters that people believe in and make them take a step which you think twice to take. And when that happens, you push the envelope. And that's what we did with a lot of these stories. And these were done by really smart women who were writers, creators. We have lots of male writers also, but a lot of the creative heads were women. And they sat, most of them were married. Half of them were married, half of them were single. We never distinguished by that. Some of them are single mothers too. And we landed up creating a world where we were inclusive. So that when we told stories of these millions of women, there was a lot of identification, but there was a little bit of pushing of the envelope because we wanted that. Slowly, when you take your daughter-in-law's side, like Tulsi did, you realize that, oh, if she can, why can't I? It didn't look like an indie show that you didn't feel it was your life. So it was about getting relatable and then making them take a step that you can in the future.
You know, it's so interesting you said that when Dostana came out, you know, it's the least politically correct film, and it's not about gay guys, but just because Karan put two gay guys there and made it almost like a humorous, affectionate thing, I think in a way he helped mainstream the idea of being gay way more than any gay pride does, you know, so.
When you have two big male stars doing a comedy, and it really doesn't mean that they are, in the end, they didn't turn out to be gay, fine, no problem. But the humor eased in some kind of, through the subconscious, some kind of belief that this too is okay.
So, before we move to, I want to kind of get the DNA of you a little bit more, but just sticking with your serials, when you just said that they push the envelope, you gave this example of Tulsi taking the side of her daughter-in-law. Can you give just one or two indicative characters who've kind of pushed that envelope? So
I think all of them have. We did marital rape in Kyonki, we did domestic rape in Kahani Ghar Ghar Ki. It was where, an uncle had crossed the line with one of the girls and the women said, we believe the girl. And it was probably something that we never saw. And the women went against the men in the house. And we've done bar, going abroad and deciding to start her life again at 80 and do a fashion designing course. I got really like, come on, man, Bath is really suspension of reality. I'm like, imagine all the grown-up women at home, if they feel that she can do it, why can't I? Then why not, yeah? And then there was, of course, through other shows too, we sometimes played high on convention, sometimes we played high on taking the conventioning and slowly pushing it out of it. Yeah, so it was a mixture of a lot of things. And then when they said you only have women in sarees, we decided to go ahead and do dirty picture and say, I mean, the idea is choice. I can be comfortable in a salwar kurta, a burqa, or a swimming costume, and that's my choice. It's no one else's business.
Right. So, I'm going to come to the fact that you've broken into this super hyper male bastion, which is, producing entertainment, and you've really become like session calls you the Empress in the Big Boys Club. And I want to understand that journey a little bit. But just this alter ego, Ekta, like you said, so you were very comfortable in this, the psyche of the, millions of women who don't have a voice actually on cinema or on television. And you served that. But at the other end, like you just said, you did Dirty Picture with Vidya Balan. You did Lipstick Under My Burqa, which I don't know how many of you have seen, but it was rejected by 11 studios when Ekta picked it up. And it has 3 very disparate women examining their sexuality. Most memorably, Ratna Pathak Shah playing a middle-class housewife who suddenly begins to have phone sex with a man, and that's like really avant-garde for Hindi cinema. So what made you pick that? And you said that that film forced you to have a conversation with yourself as a woman. So give us insight into that.
So here I was sitting, and my brother had actually done his surrogacy through Mr. Prakash Jha, and he told me there's a movie, और आपकी टाइप की फिल्म है, आप देख लो. So then I was like, मेरे टाइप की फिल्म क्या होता है? आपको पसंद आएगी, बहुत सारा edgy है और sexual है. I said, okay, that's some reputation. Okay, I said, and then this young director, she came and she showed me the film, and I was like, I have a half an hour slot, and I'm so sorry, but I need to go out and I need to do this other meeting. So she was like, okay, and I said, I promise you, if I like the film, we'll see more of it tomorrow. And I have my own theater at home. So I started watching the film. I loved it so much. I told her, please come back tomorrow. She's like, are you sure? I said, yeah, I'm going to cancel everything tomorrow. This meeting I have to go for. And I saw the film and I was like, I just loved what she was trying to say. There was this purity in the sexual expression of this woman's narrative that was like, okay, I'm 50 and 55. I'm hyper on hormones. There's so much suppression. And yet I navigate my sexuality through high level conditioning. So I was like, this is a story I definitely want to tell. And the funniest meeting was with my distribution team who said that, ye dekhega kaun? I said, do not worry. I promise you we will make 5-10 more shows to cover the cost. We will not put our investors in this, but we need to do this movie. And I'll do everything to make this work. So from actually going to every city for promotion to doing things which were like putting it out there, calling up all my friends to put up a post on it. We did it all and the film worked. I still remember I was doing my deal with Reliance on and on the same day was the release, and everyone said this film won't open at 5 lakhs. Omax had predicted 5 lakhs for its opening. And we opened at 125, which was unheard of.
1 crore 25.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we were like, we have to show that this film had to cover only 4.5-5 crores. But if it opened at 125 means it would do about 8 crores, and that would mean it would cover its 4.5. The rest of the sales, satellite, digital, was free for the other producer who made it. And I was like, I'm going to do this so that no one thinks that making a story about women is financially not viable. You're not doing charity. You're catering to half the population.
Absolutely. I think at least the women should clap for that. And in a city like Chennai, definitely the men as well. But Ekta, just to probe you a little bit personally, you said it forced you to have a conversation with the woman in you for the first time. What did you mean by that, and what was that conversation?
It was pretty much very telling that, we are all so shy about our sexuality. And when I was like making shows, and everyone was like, you're making these shows on alt, and people are really upset. You have this conservative image through television. Why are you doing it? And that movie actually made me feel that what's wrong with sex? If I'm going to be having sex in content, I just know that I'll have to pick up a lot of wars. Finally, I'm like actually at this stage saying that, okay, maybe I'm not ready for this war. But, and so I've stopped some content. But actually, I was like, why do we have to start fitting into these boxes when actually we should be having a problem with sexual crime? We don't have a problem with eve teasing, we have a problem with sex. So we don't have any form of, and prohibition causes the biggest form of crime. So I was like, this is great, this movie. And this was a conversation I had with myself that, we've got to have our own morality in life and we have to stand up. And someone once said that well-behaved women rarely make history.
I think your calling card, your business card, or you should say that, well-behaved women don't make history. And that's a great doorway for me to enter a little bit into your entrepreneurship, Ekta, and I'm going to circle back to your creativity again. But Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw once told me that when she was starting out her company, there's such a mindset, and I know that none of us like to see ourselves through a gendered lens, but it exists, and Kiran said that when she first started hiring, people walked in, and not that being a secretary is by any means, low down on the hierarchy of things, but all the employees she was seeking to hire said, where's the boss? And they assumed that she's the secretary. And I found it very interesting that you also used to take your father for business meetings in a company that you and your mother began, So tell us a little bit about that initial struggle to be taken seriously, and at which point did you decide to kick ass and give up the shield of your father?
So it was always simpler to take dad for a meeting because whatever you want to say, it would be him saying it, and there would be a little bit of credibility and gravitas to the conversation because I was all of 18. I looked like an entitled, plump little child who has come with a toy that she wants to put on a show. I mean, no one really took me seriously. And it's interesting to know this, but I started doing drama because someone gave me a chance to make a show in Tamil. My first drama is a Tamil show. And I made it, it's called Kudambam. And I made it because someone said, how will you do it? I said, stories all over the world work. I set up my office in South. I went to Tirupati Balaji, came down, and I said, this is what I'm going to do. When I got the TRPs of my Tamil show, I took that to Sony and I said, this is a show. He said, whose show is this? I said, mine. It's on Sun TV. And actually, because of that Tamil show, I got my first Hindi show and I got my first drama.
Well, here's to Ignition, guys.
So yeah, so when I was saying that, so I took my dad and then I realized that after some time it's really not working because it was getting even worse because you can open a door, but I was looking even more entitled. Suddenly my dad would say like, मेरी बेटी बहुत ही अच्छा show लेकर आई है, and I was sounding so wrong. I was sounding so wrong. I was sounding like this, and he couldn't stop being my dad, and I couldn't stop being embarrassed that I was putting him through this. Putting myself through this, somebody else was looking at an indulgent father and giving a half smile and waiting for this meeting to end, which they did out of respect. And I was like, let me not take him. Let me go through it. And actually, Hum Panch happened because I was supposed to give an episode to LTV, which was a sister concern of Z, and I made one more copy and dropped it at ZTV with only my name, Ekta Kapoor. My dad doesn't go by his surname, Kapoor, so no one really knew who I was. And that episode they liked and they called me for a meeting. And that's how it happened. Before that, it was all about, oh, really sweet of her, so cute. She's making content now, how nice. I'm like, okay, I'm really not. I can see myself and I can see how they are looking at me, and it's really not nice.
It's good to have a cinematic eye, you know, because then you have that, like, how would you look on screen in a story, in a film, being that tag-along daughter, you know, coercing others to produce your stuff. So, but Ekta, from there, you know, it must have still been difficult, one, to overcome that tag of being your father's daughter. But, you know, for a while, especially in the beginning, you had this reputation of being a virago, you know, quote unquote, throwing UFOs at people, being a yeller and a screamer. And, you know, again, being a woman outside, I can understand how tough that journey must have been. So, self reflectively now, were there mistakes you made? But what about all those labels that were thrown at you? You know, help us understand how you passed through that phase of making your
Yeah, I was a
footprint.
bit of both. I mean, there was, of course, a lot of it was almost true. I was
Was
overworked,
true.
tired, and extremely young and extremely successful. And it's a terrible combination because what you'll end up thinking is that you can do anything and it won't make a difference. Simultaneously, I saw a lot of men on the set and they would not take me seriously and they would scream their way through work. Now, at that time, I was probably imitating that same ideology, and I realized that no one saw me the same way because these was backslapping boys who would say, "Yaar, chal na, kaam karna, and come back home," and it would not be make a difference. But I couldn't say, "Come on, do this." It was like getting a bit. So it was a lot of that also, and a lot of the fact that I probably was too young and didn't know that if I have to get something done, I have to hear the other side also. But I think we learn through the journey. So I don't regret it because at no point, and I'm saying this again and again, at no point did I work even 1 minute less than the other person in the room. And for me, I always believed that that is why they built respect for me because no one felt I came in and left when other people were working.
Yeah.
So that's very important. So somewhere I didn't make up for the screaming, but I definitely made up for the ignited passion was as much for people to feel like, okay, there's something we're doing here.
So, you know, it's very honest of you to even reflect because a lot of others would not, you know, and it takes, do you think it also takes a certain amount of ego to be a really successful entrepreneur? Because you're pushing, you have to get your stuff done, you know, you later learn how to quote that in a better way. But what did you learn about leadership in that? One, you said yes, to listen to others, but what's that balance between a healthy ego and, you know, not towing the
I
line?
think more than ego is anarchy. I think
Anarchy.
yeah, you just land up thinking that I'm taking too many opinions and I think I know how to get this done. So you don't really want to hear anyone. You're like, this is the way and we're going to get this done. It really works at times because you end up doing great work, but what it doesn't work in building a team. So there's got to be that thin line between saying, okay, this I will have open to conversation, but this will be just my vision. What happens is when you actually envelope the whole organization with just this is my vision, and it's all about me, then you do great work, but you
But
don't
it's
get great workers, which never works in the long run.
no, that's well put, actually. Yeah. But tell me, you know, you were saying that you started at 17 and you really became very spiritual almost by 25, and that you were on a journey that no one understood, you know. What was that journey? Why did you feel, I mean, you've explained a little bit about why you felt misunderstood. But what was that internal journey you were on, and what did, you know, I know again there's been this stereotype of you with your beads and your japmalas and your rings and your superstition, etc. But give us insight, a deeper insight into that. You know, what did plugging into a spiritual world do for you?
So I mean, like the whole world is getting spiritual now and finding that, and I probably went on that journey a little earlier, and I probably wore it on this my sleeve. Like that was a bit shocking. I found a lot of people hiding. Oh, I don't tell everyone, but I also believe I go to temples. Nothing to be embarrassed about. Nothing. If I want to wear a tika and I want to hold my mala and I want to have my rings, I mean, why do I have to underplay it? Why do I have to behave and look like anyone else? I mean, we all have been given our individual lives. We all have our own beliefs. At times, those beliefs take over even our appearances. And that should not matter to you or me. It should be. And yes, there was an internal journey. I probably had too much too soon. And the level of eyes on me from just being a kid to then having to be suddenly put on the center stage was probably too much for me to take. And probably I felt a tad lonely. So religion,
Lonely.
spirituality helped me through it.
If in a line, if you were to distill that like an elevator pitch, which everyone has to do for their stories, what is that one line that spirituality did for you?
This too shall pass. The good passes, the bad passes.
Right. So, Ekta, now another very interesting facet to her is that, like I said, she's been accused of reinforcing stereotypes, though she just shared with us that actually she uses those stereotypes to constantly and gently nudge the boundaries of society. But fascinatingly, in your own life, Ekta, and I saw that in passing, you said it's almost beautiful karma that having created these perfect stereotypes, you don't follow the stereotype of a woman, mother, marriage, parenting, none of it. So give us insight into that. Like, has your family found it easy to accept that you did not follow any of the beaten paths?
I think they realized very young that nothing about me was typical. And I questioned everything. When you question everything, you somehow do. I mean, most of my success was because I questioned everything. This is the way to do television, but why not this? And so I realized in early in life that family is a very beautiful word. But typical family is boundaries in which we want people to see us. I didn't want that. I wanted my family, where I wanted my own son or my own child, and he happened to be my son. I wanted my own home. I wanted my own space. And I don't think I was made for marriage. I think marriage is a beautiful thing for those who are ready for it. It isn't beautiful if you have your mind so set and not being married. So I think I personally believe choice is the only thing that matters in life. If I choose to be married, no one can question me. If I choose to not be married, no one can question me.
So give us a periscope into your family, like let us have one
So we
window.
have these two men who are better parents than me and my mom. That's my brother and my father. And my father and my brother are co-parenting like my mom and I do. We have two children. Both are born out of surrogacy, my brothers and mine. And we are a mildly dysfunctional, extremely loving, happy family.
And the beauty is that they're the most unlikely ambassadors of the great family dramas that you put out.
I think we are the perfect family drama. What do you call? There is so much drama in all the dysfunctionality as far as the world goes, and so much love and melodrama as far as we go with each other. I think this is the perfect poster family.
Right. There's been a WhatsApp number flashing, so if you have questions, please do send your messages to that number, and I'm going to quickly field some. Before I open it up, I just wanted to get into a couple more aspects. Ekta, what do you value most about yourself? Like in this entire journey that you've made as an entrepreneur, what are the qualities? Again, if you were dissecting yourself as a character, what are the qualities you have which have made you successful or have made you grow? What would you pick?
Resilience.
Sorry?
Resilience. I'm resilient. I think that's one thing. I just want to focus on the goal. How many ever traumatic ups and downs come my way, I keep at the goal. So I think that is the only quality I really admire about myself. Others are left for discussion.
Yes, malleability is something that you said, which is
Adaptability, malleability, and probably constantly going for your goal without having, um, without actually getting tied down or bogged down by no's, by roadblocks. You can face the roadblock and then go ahead. Everyone knows that don't give up. I just keep going at it.
so, once you acquired a large empire, and there's investors, there are people, there are jobs, have you become less of a risk taker, what you were at 17 and now?
I think there's more calculated risk than before. The last 2 years, we've actually learned how to, like, I mean, I actually stopped doing a certain kind of content because it was problematic. Then I started doing certain other kinds of content. So, yeah, we have to constantly tailor our point of views to keep our investors and audiences happy. And they come before my own person. So, that actually is very true. Like creativity, I won't say has taken a back seat, but it is selective. So I would be like taking a risk on one or two really good things, but otherwise I would like to see that there's a certain amount of insulation, certain amount of safety net I put my co-workers, my colleagues, and my investors in.
So is that self-censorship only dependent on, again, like the money end of it, investment, or have you been impacted by the environment we're in?
I think I have a lot of cases on me for the sexual content in some of our shows, but that aside, I think everything in a company, I mean, financially, the company has to be buoyant. Otherwise, I mean, nothing else will ever survive. So, yeah, that financially to protect the company is our first, and the other things, of course, are also there.
So, two things while I quickly start looking at questions is that, there's been this huge talk about nepotism and about legacy and all of that. You've talked very humorously and funnily about it. But in this world of creativity, do you think that when you look at yourself, do you have moments of disquiet about this whole nepotism business, or are you at peace with it? How do you counter it? What is your take on it?
I don't bother with it. I mean, I'm making television. Clearly, no one launched me. And as far as the actors go, we've seen generations after generations. Shah Rukh Khan does well. So many star kids don't. So everyone gets maybe some opportunity extra if you're born in a film family. But it just dissipates in some time because equally important and equally big is a skepticism that you'll do well.
Yeah, that's true. Just while I'm reading these questions, Ekta, is there any absolutely pivotal episode, when you were really down, any one or two events in your life that have really shaped you, as to who you are today? Can you pick some, not the successful ones, because those we know, and you've talked about how you dealt with success, but something which really made you look in the mirror and change direction within yourself?
2008, we had our first fight with Star TV, and I mean, at one point, I had one huge relationship with one big broadcaster, and I realized at that time, one, that you have to be a little more humble in how you approach your partners, and two, I realized that you need to have many, many partners, because you cannot be doing work where you one day will be having a sort of a showdown or a block, and the next thing your business is over. That 1 year I had no work. And from being busy from the age of 16 to actually coming to a year where you come to office and you have no work when you're working, I had no hobbies. I didn't know what to do. And I realized that I have to start liking myself a little more and making some hobbies, because life cannot just be about work. So that was a big year for me.
Sorry, a lot of your questions have come without your name, so forgive me if I don't call out your name. So this is an interesting question here, that being a really self-defined, self-motivated woman, and yet you have a deep faith in astrology and superstition. So how do you, reconcile these two aspects of yourself?
So, I think I walk the thin rope between free will and destiny. And when you walk that thin line between free will and destiny, you know that you can do a lot of things, but you want destiny to help. So that's what. Here I am doing everything, and I've put in my best word, and I just look up and I say that I hope you just make this happen. I believe there's a stronger power. I believe that there is a bigger power, and I think that keeps us going. I do believe that karma is much bigger than prayer, and it is matters how kind you are than how religious you are. But I also believe that sometimes you need the superpowers to work. So yeah.
So two quick questions. I know, Saloni is egging me that it's time and we also have two other sessions, but, what are your views on same-sex marriage? And several people have asked that, the fact that you support sexual iconoclasm, is that a personal crusade? Is it a socio-political belief you really have? Is it driven by capitalism,
I believe that in a country like ours, and we need to push all kinds of thoughts. And I believe in inclusiveness. So same-sex marriages is the easiest thing actually. It's like you should not even look at them as different. It doesn't matter. And I personally believe the world is far more inclusive today than it was, but it's still very far from being completely inclusive. And this is a journey we all need to together take to make the world a far more. It should not matter what sex you are, what sexuality you are, what color you are, or how much talent you have, as long as you're kind.
There's a lot of questions, particularly on on your sexual philosophy, your philosophy of the world, which you answered that, so I'm not calling those out. There's an interesting question on you being a mom. You've said you don't want to be a perfect mom, but now that you are a mother, what's the one thing you think you're getting right, and what is the couple of things you are really scared about,
So, as a mother, my biggest fear is that now suddenly there's another human being who I actually feel more responsible towards. And responsibility isn't one big virtue of mine. So suddenly I'm like, okay, I have this human being who's depending on me. And I'm not really a dependable person as far as personal life goes. So I'm like, I suddenly had to grow up. And I think as a mother, I looked at my son, and the first thing I told him, I don't think he understood at that time, was that, this is new for me. This is new for you. This world is new for you. And let's be a team and do this together because I don't know how to do it alone.
That's nice.
I was actually the wrongest person to be a single parent because I was just not right. And my mom said, you'll do it beautifully because you will love him and that's all that matters.
Yeah, that's so true. There's nothing can go wrong with love. Ekta, there's one question about your obsession with the letter K. And, you did share with me about anxiety. And then again, we see the completely public, successful personas that we see on screen. There's always the internal journey. Have you ever had to deal with mental health issues, with anxiety, dealing with the edge of success all the time? Has it had an
I think
impact?
mental health issues we have to make it more, let's normalize mental health issues. I think most of us have it. I think that's the only part of our bodies we don't get checked, we don't get treated, and we push it under the carpet, especially women. It's a part of our lives. I'm highly anxious. I'm a diagnosed hypochondriac, and I live on the fear. So, for me, the new year was about shifting from living with what if this will happen to what if this also can happen. Going from fear to faith. While I believe a lot, I felt I was operating a lot out of fear. So it's mental health issues. We're all going through as women, hormones, changes after 40. Let's normalize knowing that our bodies, our minds are constantly changing, and yet we have to get up and show up without giving ourselves that self-care of understanding what we are feeling. And that is a truth for all of us at different forms, in different ways. We show up without recognizing what we are feeling, and that's when mental health starts, and it's an issue with all of us.
Unfortunately, Ekta, I'm going to have to leave it there because I'm getting too many messages. You have a flight to catch. Thank you so much for being so honest with us. Just before you walk off the stage, you know, what do you want your legacy to stand for? Like, what do you want Ekta Kapoor to stand for?
I don't believe in legacy business at all. I want to stand for probably being somebody that pushes the envelope, does her own thing, and doesn't fit in a box. I hope many more women don't fit in boxes that people want to constantly push us into.